asshole that says we got in this thing and went back in time?
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
But all of us know that movement through time is possible. Einstein proved it.
Even if you had invented a time machine or whatever you call it, what of it?
The year is 1995. Bill Clinton is president. The Oscar for that year went to Braveheart. Songs on the radio you might hear are TLC's Waterfalls, Gangster's Paradise by Coolio. Movies you may have seen in the theater include such things as Batman Forever, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and the first Toy Story movie. But November of 1995, another movie came out. This was not a brand new movie. This was a new addition to a whole saga of movies. And that was Goldeneye. This is a brand new James Bond movie starring a brand new James Bond. Up to this point, we had Sean Connery, we had Roger Moore, we had Timothy Dalton. Now we have a brand new James Bond, and that's Pierce Brosnan. And this is his first James Bond movie, Goldeneye. So what were people going to think? What was the reaction to this movie going to be? I remember when I went and saw this movie, I was unimpressed with the Timothy Dalton movies. Not to say I blame Timothy Dalton for them, but I think the tone of the character had changed so much. So I went in to see this movie hoping for a new James Bond. And Pierce Brosnan was not an unknown. My mom was a big fan of Pierce Brosnan in his show Remington Steele back in the 80s. Many people knew him as the kind of, I don't want to say villain, but Sally Field's boyfriend in Mrs. Doubtfire. Now he's been asked to don the tuxedo, drink the martini shaken but not stirred, and take on such an iconic character as James Bond. He was considered for James Bond once before. Before Timothy Dalton got the role, he was considered as possibility for James Bond. He was busy with Remington Steele and under contract and didn't really have the free time to do it, but he was a consideration at that time for James Bond. So now he has the chance. He doesn't have a TV show, he's open, available, and now he's asked to do James Bond. So how did it turn out? It actually did pretty well. Most people liked him as James Bond. He was suave, he had presence, he was definitely someone you could see being a ladies' man. You start off the movie with him and 006 being played by Sean Bean, who many of you know now from tons of other things. And they're storming a Russian facility that happens to be a dam as well. And so we start off with an action sequence that goes wrong because all of a sudden 006, Sean Bean, is killed.
Finish the job, James. Blow them all to hell. For England, James!
James Bond makes a miraculous escape, jumping off of a ledge and managing to dive into a plane that was also going down and being able to pull it up in time. It was a neat stunt. There was no CGI really effects at that time. You know, you can tell now watching it, the effects are a little dated, but it was still a neat stunt, right? The next time we see him, though, we see him racing in a car with a attractive woman next to him, apparently doing an evaluation. And we have another sports car that comes up beside him and they start racing and we get a nice little car chase. But he ends up seducing the girl in his car.
James, you're incorrigible. What am I going to do with you?
Let's toast your evaluation, shall we?
So we get back to this very debonair James Bond, which Timothy Dalton really didn't possess or at least extrude as that debonair. It was a great movie. I enjoy it. I rewatched it recently just to kind of see where it stands. It's still a good movie. I still enjoy it. I'm not saying all the Pierce Brosnan movies are great as far as James Bond, but that one was definitely a good one. It was everything I expected from a James Bond movie, right? It had action, it had gadgets, it had women being seduced, it had explosions, and it was everything I expected. You know, I expected him at some point to say,
The name's Bond. James Bond.
It was exactly what I expected. Now, rewatching this movie, I think I'd forgotten how many other famous people were in it. You had Famke Janssen playing a villain in this.
Ksenia Sergeyevna Onatop.
On the top?
Onatop.
You may recognize her as the early Jean Grey in the early X-Men movies, right? She played, in my opinion, one of the best villain females in any of the James Bond movies. At least from my opinion, she was very entertaining to watch.
No more foreplay. Take me to Yanis.
She seemed to like to kill guys by wrapping her legs around them, which if you gotta go, you gotta go. That's not a bad way to go.
Xenia, I can't breathe.
You also had Alan Cummings playing a Russian computer geek.
All right, I'll give you a hint. They're right in front of you and can open very large doors.
Alan Cummings has been in a lot of things. He would also join Famke in a future X-Men movie. He played Nightcrawler.
Symbols passed on to mankind by the Archangel Gabriel.
He played this nerdy Russian computer geek who hacked everybody and was great at it. Never got caught, you know?
I am invincible!
You also had Sean Bean. Sean Bean we see in the very beginning of the episode as 006, Alec. And he dies, or so we think, and he later turns up to be the villain.
Back from the dead. No longer just an anonymous star on the memorial wall at MI6.
And dies. One of his many, 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 many deaths that Sean Bean will have in a movie. It was a good movie. It was a James Bond movie. This was also the first James Bond movie where M was played by a woman, by Judi Dench.
Because if I want sarcasm, Mr. Tanner, I'll talk to my children. Thank you very much. Good evening, 007.
Good evening, Em.
The Prime Minister's waiting for an update.
It was everything we wanted to see. You know, it was the gadgets made by Q. It was the explosions. There were multiple women that were seduced. It was exactly what we expected. I think there are a lot of things that are great about James Bond movies, right? There's a lot of things you expect in James Bond movies, right? You expect gadgets.
Morning, Q. Sorry about the leg. Skiing?
Hunting.
You expect him to have a martini.
Vodka martini. Shaken, not stirred.
You expect him to have, numerous women throughout the movie. The plot of this movie is fairly straightforward. You have a Russian satellite named Goldeneye. It's orbiting, and when put in the right position, it can detonate a nuke in the atmosphere, causing an EMP blast, an electromagnetic pulse blast, disabling an area, right? And now you have these evil terrorists who have gotten hold of it, and James Bond's got to stop them, right? Famke Janssen plays a villain. Sean Bean plays the main villain. You had other great supporting characters as well. Robbie Coltrane, who many know as Haggard from the Harry Potter movies, was in this, playing a Russian arms dealer.
He wants me to do him a favor.
You had so many great actors, either not quite as famous as they are now or just hitting their stride around this time.
What of the two missing Severnaya technicians?
And this is, again, before CGI. So there are definite scenes, whether it be the helicopter scene, not the helicopter, the plane scene in the beginning when as it crash lands. You can kind of tell that's a model. Or the end bad guy installation, you can definitely tell that was done as a model. So there are definite 1995 special effects in this. But it's still, the storyline is still great. The main Bond girl in this movie, Izabella, I'm not going to try and pronounce her last name because I would butcher it, plays a Russian computer nerd, not quite at Alan Cummings' level, but also plays a computer nerd who was supposed to die in the initial theft of Goldeneye. She didn't. There is a really great scene in this movie where there's a car chase and James Bond is chasing the bad guys who have Natalia. But what's great about it is he's chasing them with a tank through the streets. So we see it just plowing through buildings. We see it plowing over cars. It was so much fun to watch. And ultimately, he later on uses it to derail an armored train, right? It was so much fun to watch stuff like that. There was also a scene where, he's trapped in a helicopter that's about ready to get blown up and he needs to eject, and hey, he's tied up. He can't hit anything or anything like that, so he headbutts a control in front of him, and then hey, the eject button just happens to be right next to his head, so he's eventually able to headbang it. I don't know if eject buttons in helicopters are really right by the head, but that seemed very convenient at that time. It suited the plot. There's very little Americans in it. You have an American CIA agent who shows up a few times, and he's kind of more comic relief than anything, whether it be showing a rose or the way he does car repair at one point when his Russian car breaks down, or even when he shows up near the end to help out James Bond. James Bond movies are also notorious for being in multiple locations. We start off at a Russian installation, then we end up near the Mediterranean, it looks like. Then we end up in London. Then we end up... Where did we end up? Back in Russia. And then we end up in the Caribbean. It's certainly, jet setting. It makes a very global movie in the way they do it. Now, do I think James Bond is best done by Pierce Brosnan? No. To me, Sean Connery, rest in peace, is the best James Bond.
Don't you think it's time we got to know each other socially?
Well, the new Miss Galore. Where do you hide your gold knuckles in this outfit?
He is always going to be my favorite. I don't know that another one will come along that I think will be as good as Sean Connery. He is absolutely amazing. We were supposed to get a new James Bond movie this month. James Bond movies do come out a lot in November. We are supposed to get it. We didn't get it, but it's the 25th anniversary of Goldeneye. If you've not seen this or you haven't seen it in a long time, rewatch it. It's a fun movie. It's a fun action flick. It's a James Bond movie. It's definitely better than Die Another Day, or The World Is Not Enough. I do like Tomorrow Never Dies. But I do think Goldeneye was the best of the Pierce Brosnan ones. I think it was a great introduction of him as James Bond. So do I recommend Goldeneye? Absolutely. I enjoyed it when it came out. I still enjoy it now. I rewatched it. It's a little dated, but it's still a lot of fun. I think the performances of all the actors was done really well. I think Pierce Brosnan did great as a James Bond. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something to watch because we don't have a lot of new content, and hey, maybe revisiting an old one would be great. So that's my review. If you like these throwbacks, I want to do more of them, whether it be anniversary or just, hey, let's talk about this old movie. I got a lot of movies I really like. There are a lot of movies I'd love to talk about. There's a lot of movies I'd love to revisit. And if that's something you'd be interested in, hey, leave a comment down below. Maybe even make some suggestions on something you'd like to see myself or Andrew talk about, or maybe we do it together. But let us know what you think, and I look forward to providing more of these videos in the future. And again, happy anniversary to Goldeneye. It's a shame we're not getting a James Bond movie this month, so watch Goldeneye as a filler until next year when we do get a new James Bond. Until next time, this is Adam with It Takes Two Takes.
Hey everyone, Andrew with It Takes Two Takes. We're playing some royalty-free music, so don't even bother Shazamming that one. We got videos over here I think you're gonna enjoy, and there's a button over here I'm gonna enjoy. Let's make this all work together, right? Please subscribe, check out what else we have going on. Thanks for watching.